Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. This is Jim Whalen. This is episode number 35 of the Sports Consiglieres podcast. Along with me is my co-host, Jerry Calla. Jerry, how you doing today?
Jimmy, what's up, buddy?
Our next guest played with Big Blue back in the late 70s. He played collegiately at Texas Tech. He was kind of a groundbreaker at the sport. He would run and catch out of the backfield. It's our pleasure to introduce to you near giant number 38, Billy Taylor. Billy, how you doing today? Thank you for joining the show, and you're on with Jimmy and Jerry.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. Hope you guys are doing great.
We're doing a lot better now. So I know that we're going to kind of dive into your life a little bit, what you're doing, in the past. But we had a couple of Giants on there. We had your old teammate Larry Flowers on the show a while back. So do you remember playing with Larry at Texas Tech at all? Or?
And he played with the Giants with me.
Yeah, correct. Yes. So
yeah, really a tough guy.
So you grew up in San Antonio, Texas. What was it like in San Antonio? I mean, it's a lot different now. I think it's a little more touristy. How was it growing up in San Antonio?
My dad retired from the military. He was in 20 years, and that's where he retired, and that's where I ended up going to high school, and really, really enjoyed it. I still keep in contact with my classmates from Texas, from John Jay High School out there. But it's a beautiful city. It really is. If I was living in some crazy place, I'd definitely move there, and I'm just really proud to be there. And it's a little hot in the summer, but because of the cold now, I'd rather be hot than cold.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And plus, I guess the taxes are probably a lot better. I guess everybody's a tax-free state. So, but you played at Texas Tech. I guess you played with like a no huddle offense. I guess that was the first coach you had. I guess around mid '70s. Was that the offense you had initially when you started at Texas Tech?
Well, there was a gentleman who played behind Joe Namath at Alabama. His name was Steve Sloan. He was an offensive guru at that time, and I think his first year there, which was my sophomore year, I think we led the conference of Texas of the Southwest Conference at that time in offense, and it really brought a new level for me to learn what offenses can do and not be conservative, because even at the University of Texas, they were running the wishbone with Earl Campbell, and I thought I didn't like that because we ran that in high school. So I got to catch the ball out of the backfield, and that's what I really, really loved. And I think that helped me to play as long as I did in the NFL.
And that was kind of uncommon. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I really didn't play the sport, but at your time, like running backs ran the ball, like there wasn't really it was kind of a new concept of running backs kind of catching the ball out of the backfield. Is that correct at that time? Was it kind of like, was that something new, or is that something that kind of attracted you to go to Texas Tech? Or?
Well, I don't really know if it was new, because I used to watch college balls and watch the running backs catch the ball out of the backfield. And then when I was in high school at Texas Tech, we were one of the top teams in Texas when I was in San Antonio, and I caught a couple passes in the wee minutes of a game that allowed us to win. And I just loved it because it allowed me to be a dual threat. And I used to watch some running backs come out of the game because they couldn't really run a route or catch the ball. So I definitely, even when I talk to kids or anybody like that, I tell them, catch the ball out of the backfield, learn how to catch the ball, and it allows you to stay on the field longer. So I was very proud of that.
And then I guess just doing research for the show, it was 77. You're in a Tangerine Bowl. I mean, you guys had success, but that Southwest Conference back then, you had a lot of tough teams. What was it like playing in the Southwest Conference back then? Because I mean, you had Texas, you had Oklahoma, you had I think Texas A&M, you had SMU. Yeah, you guys were it was stacked. But you had looking at the records, you always had a winning season in college.
Yeah, we went to 3 bowl games out of 4 years that I was there, and they had great talent. I mean, a lot of talent, because Earl Campbell won the Heisman my senior year when I was at Texas Tech and he was at Texas. Let's see, Craig James and Eric Dickerson were just beginning at SMU.
Sure.
And we had a lot of great players came from there. One of the linebackers, his name is Byron Hunt. He went to SMU and he played with me on the Giants. The whole conference was outstanding. Baylor was decent then, Texas A&M. We had just good rivals around the country, and I thought it was it was probably some of the best football I've seen at that time. It's kind of a shame the way the college is now, because I think there's only really two good conferences and the rest of the people are kind of left out. And I hope they kind of get that together, because the NCAA is kind of, I don't know if it's hurting the game or whatever, but it's definitely having its impact.
Yeah, definitely. And then, of course, we asked Larry Flowers this, but Bill Parcells was on. I know you're on the offensive ball. Bill Parcells was there at Texas Tech. Did you have any interactions with that? And did that kind of translate into the Giants, or your relationship with Parcells from college?
Well, he came in with the guy Steve Sloan my sophomore year, so he was there my sophomore, junior, and senior year. Yeah, we were very close at Texas Tech. Matter of fact, we used to play basketball against each other in the offseason, and back then he was a decent athlete. Now he looks like he couldn't even hold a basketball. But
well, listen, Billy, I texted Jerry last night and said, "Hey, Billy Taylor's coming on the show," and he was overjoyed. So I know he's waiting in the bullpen there, so I'm going to pass this along to Jerry, and he can kind of pick it up from your college career onto the Giants. But
hey, no problem. Thank you, guys.
Hey, Billy, welcome to the program again. Thanks for joining us. Two quick stories. One you might not remember. So my daughter is 22, so I'm at a car wash in Lodi. I have a Giants sweatshirt on. She's in the car seat, so I'm obviously have her in the car seat, and I'm staring at you, and I'm like, yeah, I know who that is. And then I said I didn't want to say anything, and you come over to me, and it was after a very bad Jim Fossil-led Giant team loss. I believe it was a Monday or a Tuesday morning. And you said to me, we started talking about the Giants, and I said to you, yeah, I said, I know who you are, by the way. And you said, there is no way you know who I am. And I said, I will tell you your name, your nickname, where you went to college, and your number. And you did offer, I got all that information correct, and you did offer to pay for my car wash, which I did decline, which was very, very nice. So, and again, why that was, not to get a little geeky now, but why that was a big moment for me meeting you was because the first game my dad ever took me to as a young kid, you scored a touchdown, and unfortunately back then the Giant offense, you were the Giant offense for several seasons, and so again, welcome to the program. And like I told you, it was probably about 19 years ago. I don't know if you age at all. So you look like you could still hit Gary's game.
Well, Jerry, believe it or not, I do remember talking to you about it, because when I left the game, I worked with the Fan, WFAN, when they first started, and that was back in 1987, something like that, when I started the Fan. I worked there for about 12 years. I do remember. The only thing I'm going to dispute you on, I don't know if I remember asking you if I pay for your car wash. I didn't sound like me. But I do remember talking about that. I said, you don't know who I am. I remember that because I did that all the time, because, the Giants were not good when I played. We had a lot of bad seasons. Right. I remember Harry Carson throwing his helmet against the wall. We lost to the Eagles, I think my first or second year, when Herman Edwards had that famous fumble and went back, and a bunch of guys like Brad Van Pelt and there were John Mendenhall, a lot of guys on there that were older than myself, and it was just an experience for me. And we never lost at Texas Tech very often. We had pretty decent records, so it was my first losing season as a player. But then even when I became a broadcaster, I kind of had the Giants blue inside me, because Jim Fossil was he took him to the Super Bowl in 2000 and was really a good guy. I think his son was the special team coach on the Cowboys, but I don't know where he is now, but really good guy. And, he was the one who coached Tiki Barber. They went to the Super Bowl in 2000, but I really thought Jim Fossil was outstanding, but I do remember you at the car wash.
Oh, Billy, I'll be honest with you. Show how smart you are. I think you already knew that I paid for it, so that's why you probably.
Well, I've got a degree from Texas Tech, so I think I have some intelligence.
But all good stuff. So now again, and I agree with you about Jim Fossil. I actually think he gets a bad rap, because they did have success under him, and the Giant offense was potent. But again, you come in 79, 80. You had two really good seasons with the Giants, and like Jimmy said, back then no really running back caught the ball coming out of the backfield. You had almost 300 yards receiving both those years. You were around 28, I think, receptions in 79, 30 something in 80. So, I mean, when you came to the Giants, obviously they had to see that you were a dual threat running back at Texas Tech. Or is that just, how did that really come to be? Because nobody in the NFL was throwing the ball to the running back.
Well, my rookie year was 78. I didn't play very much because they had some old dude named Larry Zonka starting at fullback, and he was old as like I used to wake him up in the meetings because he would go to sleep all the time. But I watched running backs. Wilbert Montgomery went to the Eagles and watched different running backs catch the ball out of the backfield. I always wanted to line up in the slot so I could catch the ball, just kind of like how running backs do now. And there was a guy named Bobby Hammond. He played running back. I can't remember what school he went to, but he used to teach me how to run routes against linebackers. And the thing about it, if you had any kind of quick feet, you're able to kind of get past any linebacker. And I had the feeling that I could probably beat anybody. And whether it was Harry Carson, Brad Van Pelt, Brian Kelly, even Lawrence Taylor my last year, I felt I could beat any linebacker. My only problem was when the linebacker blitzed, sometimes it was hard because they were bigger than me. As a matter of fact, quick thing, when Lawrence Taylor came in training camp, we had blitz pickup and I couldn't block him. And the coach would yell at me in the meetings, and, come on, Taylor, block Taylor. And, stop the guy. But you couldn't cut him in practice. And Lawrence would just beat me every time. And then the first game of the season, I watched the team we were playing, and he got like 3 or 4 sacks the opening game. And then I knew that it wasn't just me. And what they did, Jerry, is change it so the running back does not have to block the linebacker. The guard or tackle comes out, and now the running back checks for the safety or the cornerback before he goes out in the pass. I watched Saquon Barkley get better at it because when he was a rookie, he couldn't block anybody. And these last few games, some of the difference in the game is him blocking the blitzing safety. So I think that it's definitely part of the game. If you know the game at all, you know what a big difference if the running back blocks the safety, it gives the quarterback more time and more places to be able to throw the ball. And it's a big asset if you have a running back that can block, catch the ball, and run.
Absolutely. Now again, when you're there, so let me see, my memory serves correct. 78, Pisarcik is the quarterback, right? Then 79, Sims gets drafted.
Yep. Yeah,
right?
right.
80. So you played with when your time with the Giants, you had Joe Pisarcik and Phil Sims. That's correct?
Yeah, Sims came my second year.
Right.
And he I never heard of him because I never heard of Morehouse State or wherever he went to. I never even heard of it. But the coach of the team, Ray Perkins, had went down personally to check him out. He threw the ball too hard when he first came in. I mean, I used to almost feel like breaking my fingers because he threw the ball too hard. Once he learned, and he took about 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 to develop. And because, Scott Bruner came in and took his job for a while. He got hurt for a while, but he worked hard. He was the hardest working guy I've ever seen. And then the rest is history because he led the Giants to the Super Bowl in '86. And the fans still didn't like him a lot because back then, like in '84, '85, he'd get booed from the Giants faithful. He got booed. And I couldn't understand that because he was the leader. And then I think all that kind of stuff came to the light in '86. 87 season, 86 season, but 87 after season when they beat the Broncos in the Super Bowl, and they wouldn't even give them a kind of a parade down Canyon of Heroes. They did the parade at Giant Stadium, which I thought was kind of I don't know the word, because if you think about a Super Bowl champion, a World Series champion in New York should go down that Canyon of Heroes, and I think in later years they did that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just you alluded to the Miracle in the Meadowlands. I know you're in the backfield with Doug Coder. I guess he ended up passing away, and then and Larry Zonka. What was it like playing with Larry Zonka and that play? I mean, I've heard some things about it that Pisarcik said Zonka handed the ball off, and Zonka said, "I'm not taking it." So what exactly happened on that play in the Miracle in the Meadowlands? So
the whole season was tough at that time, especially since I'm a rookie. And I'm trying to rely on veterans who were partying guys who really I didn't think they cared about winning. But the game before, the coach, offensive coordinator, his name was Bob Gibson, Joe Pisarcik would change the call at the line of scrimmage. He said, "Don't change ever anything that I call. You play it." So I wasn't in the game at that time. It was Zonka and Coder, and then they call in the play, and I knew the play was for Sargent to just drop down and on a knee and let the clock run out. But the guys in the huddle were telling him, "Give the ball to Zonka, so in case something happens, we can get extra yards going toward the first down." So they argued in the huddle, and then finally they agreed to give the ball to Zonka. First, Pasarjic fumbles the ball from the center. He turns. He can't get the ball to Zonka. He puts it on the side of his hip. The ball bounces up perfectly, because football doesn't bounce perfectly. And then Herman Edwards had blitzing at the time, came in and got the ball and went in for a touchdown. That was one of the scariest games I've ever seen, because the older veterans were mad because we had been losing. They were throwing their helmets. I mean, I had to keep my helmet on because it was so dangerous. The fans were mad at Giants Stadium. It was just one of those situations where I can't even believe it really happened. It was almost like a dream, but it was just kind of like what the Giants were down at that time. And just like this past year, there was a plane going over the field that said, "We've had enough." And then the fans start chanting, "We've had enough." And then that's when they fired John McVay, who is the grandfather of McVay at the Los Angeles Rams. So, the whole thing is kind of weird, but it's just part of the Giants' history.
Yeah, well, I mean, my dad was a season ticket holder, and him and his friend left the game early that day. So ever since then, he never left the game early. So when I was a kid, didn't matter if they were winning by 30 or losing by 30, we stayed to the end, because he's like, I was there at that game, and I missed that. And he goes, I'm not leaving. So I mean, every game, no matter on winning side or losing side, we had to stay there until the clock struck zero. So
see, that's kind of funny, because I've been having season tickets for a long time. I usually don't go to the games. I usually use them for different purposes. So I took my son, and it's really funny because it was a blowout. We left in the third quarter. He said, "Dad, why are we leaving?" So I said, "Because the game is over. We can catch the game later." So I'm just like most people. I don't want to. I want to be entertained every single week. I don't want, if the game's not very good, I would rather see something else, and that's probably why I have that YouTube stuff where I can watch any game in case the Giants are not looking good. I think probably 9 out of the last 10 years they've had a losing record. And I had hope when they went to the playoffs in 22, but as I watched it myself, they're regrouping as we speak.
And ironically too, you mentioned Bob Gibson as the offensive coordinator on that play, and I believe to this day, I don't know if Bob is still with us, but I remember he has never ever done an interview and ever spoken about that.
Well, that had to be humiliating for him because the offense was not that good. They were very conservative. They weren't putting points to the board. I think at one time we had lost something like 6 or 7 games in a row, and it was just a tough situation because you think of a pro locker room where they're losing, nobody's happy, and nobody wants to communicate. As a matter of fact, I think I was the only one that was going out on the speaking engagements. They always have every Tuesday a list of speaking engagements you can do, and you can get some extra money. And I think myself and Beasley Reese were the only ones would do it. Harry Carson wouldn't do it. George Martin, they wouldn't do it because they were just embarrassed for losing. So I just, it was just part of what happened. But, and I'm glad they overcame that in years to come because they put the Giants back in there. I'm a Jet fan also. I feel bad for them, and I want them to win a Super Bowl before I leave this world.
Well, that's a whole nother story for another show. What's going on with the Jets?
Yeah. I mean, we like their coaching hire, so I mean,
I do too.
It went back to their history, so I mean, he was a great player, great locker room. But
absolutely.
You mentioned McVay, and then Perkins comes in. We had Billy Ard here on the show. We had a couple of players are talking about his training camp. I mean, coming from Texas, and then Bray Perkins' training camp. How was that? Coming in in your first couple of years.
Oh, he was the toughest guy I've ever met. I think that it's ridiculous for you to treat pro athletes like he did. I know Billy Ard told you some stories, and Billy Ard and I played together also. We came back from Pittsburgh. We lost to the Steelers, and this was an exhibition game, and that was when the Steelers were outstanding back then in the 70s when they had all the great players, Joe Green, Bradshaw, I can go on. And then we lost him. So he comes back, and when we landed, he wanted to have a practice because he thought we weren't, and they were just outstanding. So I thought that was ridiculous. We would practice 3 times a day. And I thought that was ridiculous because many, many times, and I'm not even exaggerating, I had to rest from practice to play in a game because he worked us so hard. And I was always in great shape. I always ran after practice, lifted weights. I was always in my best condition, never got tired. But from his practices, I got so tired. And I thought he was one of the more ridiculous coaches, but he led the Giants to the playoffs in '81. And I give him credit for it, but I give credit to Parcells because Parcells had LT on defense, and the defense was the main reason they made it to the playoffs. But I didn't like that type of coaching. And if I had a choice, it's almost like how you motivate people. You need to motivate people individually. You can't motivate everybody as a group because you don't know everybody individually. I think that a good coach, like I watched Parcells, he talks to people individually, and that's how he gets his motivation in. You can't do it as a group, and Ray Perkins tried to do it as a group, and that's where I thought he failed.
Well, Billy, to add to that, we also had George Martin on, and he had the best saying about Ray Perkins. He said it was a testimonial in insanity. So, I mean, again, I mean, you're talking. I mean, Billy Yard did make one good point. He said there's probably hardly any guys currently in the NFL that could have survived training camp with Ray Perkins. So that's a testament to how tough you guys were.
Yeah, but you shouldn't have to go through that. Like and I'm not being an old dude trying to talk about it, but if I had a chance to play in this day and age, they don't hit and practice anymore. They don't practice 2-a-days, and I think I would have been well rested to play in a game on Sunday with the way that they do things now. And the way they do things now is the way you should, because all the athletes this day and age are in outstanding condition. I mean, you go through conditioning drills that are incredible. We went through 6 weeks of just conditioning before we even get to training camp. So I just think the way that it is now is the way it should be, because athletes will last a little bit longer. Because, as I was joking with, I was talking to Harry Carson this morning. If we didn't have to practice so hard in practice, I think I probably could have played a couple more years. I think I was worn out from practice.
Yeah, nowadays, well, with the collective bargaining and everything, I mean, these guys are, rarely on the field for probably more than 2 hours.
Yeah, they get a day off every other day. And I went to training camp, which I always do for the Giants, and they do run hard, but they don't hit. And I think the difference is not hitting, because, that allows you to come almost like a springboard. It allows you to go out into the game well rested and really like a rubber band can go out there and just spring. And I think that I like the way they do things. And I would encourage anybody. I had to speak to 600 women probably about maybe 6 weeks ago because they didn't want their son to play football. But I convinced them, 450 of them, to allow that because they were worried about the concussions. And there are less concussions now than there's ever been in the NFL. The game is safer, and it's a better chance for parents to allow their kids to play. As a matter of fact, they were telling me the number 1 concussion sport altogether is cheerleading. Number 2 is soccer. And the NFL and football is number 3. So because of the publicity that football gets, it kind of goes in a negative way. But I like the way the game is now. You don't really see a lot of concussions. You see some of them because it's a violent game, but you don't see as many as you used to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great sport. You work together as a team. That there's, you have to rely on the person next to you. So it really is a great sport. But that concussion movie really kind of put a little. But I mean, I think that that's probably a little more in the past. I think people understand more of the benefits now.
Yep, but women still have it a little bit different.
Yeah.
There are women playing football now. The women playing flag football, so they're getting knocked out.
Flag football is big. I think Jerry, are you coaching flag football?
Yes, high school. Coming up on my 3rd year. Yes.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's very, very exciting. 7-on-7. It's very exciting. Girls love it. We actually played last year. We played at MetLife Stadium. We also played at the Jets practice facility as well.
In Florham Park?
Florham Park, correct.
Yeah, that's really nice up there. It really is.
Yeah, beautiful. You're just driving in on the bus, driving in. Beautiful
Yeah.
complex.
Yep, I was impressed.
Yep.
But just moving on to your career, though, I mean, 1980, I guess you guys were 4-20, and then 4-12. Sorry, I remember you had the running backs Larry Heater and Leon Perry. I mean, I remember this is what by the time I was interested in the game, just like Jerry. I think the first game I went to, you remember your name being played, and my dad took me, like, he wanted me to understand the game before I went to the game. But I mean, I remember playing Dallas, and of course, I think you ended up losing Dallas. But I remember you being a big part of the team back then. But like after 80, you end up getting cut by the Giants, go to the Jets. And what happened after your career after you left the Giants in your professional career?
Well, I went to the Jets the very next day, and I didn't get a chance to play, which is no big deal. They already had a bunch of good running backs, and I think I lasted about 4 weeks, and then I got released on that. And then I signed with the Raiders right after that, and stayed there about a year and a half, and really had some of the most fun I've ever had in my whole life. Regardless of what people say, I know you guys are a little bit younger, but the owner of the team, his name is Al Davis. He got a bad rap from the media, but he was a player's owner. I mean, I remember one time we didn't look good in practice, and he brought everybody up, and he rented a private plane, and we flew to the Bahamas for the weekend, and we partied for a couple of days, and then came back and had some of the greatest practices we've ever had. And just a lot of little things. There was a guy named John Matusek, and they called him Tuesday because his name was Matusek. And he would we every day after practice, they would go have a few beers, and there's a bunch of guys who would do it. And you had to drink X amount of beers. And I think I left out of there probably at least 10 times with my head spinning because I wasn't a drinker back then. But you had to deal with that when you dealt with the Raiders, because they were probably one of the most partying teams I'd ever seen in my life.
Yeah, Matuzak is the stories about him are legendary.
To
say the least.
To say the least.
But Billy, one thing I wanted to ask you, like you came in, they called in the Giant annals, those 70s, they refer to those as the wilderness years. And I wanted to know your opinion, because this is something that I always felt is that there's two players that I think don't get their due because of of the time period that they played. And you played with both of those guys. The first one is John Mendenhall, and the second one is Jack Gregory. So how do you feel that, there's always a push to kind of get them in the Ring of Honor, to get them, a little bit more recognized by the Giant organization? How do you feel they stack up against some of the Giant greats?
Well, John Mendenhall was the quickest nose guard I have ever seen in my whole life. He wasn't very big, tall. He might have been at the most 5'11", because I'm 6'1", and I was almost towering over him. But he came from Grambling University, and he would show me in practice, because I tell you, we practiced hard. He would show me in practice. He would say, I'm going to get in your ear. He would beat the guard of the tackle so quickly. As soon as I got the ball, he was right there, but he wouldn't hit me. We became good friends, and he let me go in practice so he wouldn't kill me. But when I saw him, the way he did Tony Dorsett of the Cowboys, I just loved it, because I was anti-Cowboys back then, still am. But I just thought, he's the best nose guard, even today, that I've ever seen as far as disrupting stuff. He was the one guy that got doubled and triple teamed because he played either the nose, or sometimes they played him at tackle or end, but he was strictly a nose guard and would have to get blocked by 3 people. Jack Gregory, when I got there, he was a little older, so he probably was on the way down when I saw him, because when I played with him, he would go upfield so far that they'd take him out of the game. So if a defensive end comes up too far, it's easy for the tackle to push him out. So that was the game plan against him, and he wouldn't change that. So I thought, and he's probably then, both him and Mendenhall were probably in their 13th year, somewhere in there like that. So I knew that it was just a matter of time for both of them. But Mendenhall really just surprised me, because he was a good person, he's a good guy, and all he wanted to do was win. And he got mad because the Giants wouldn't win, which I totally understand. It's hard to lose.
Right, absolutely.
And then once your playing career comes in and you get into broadcasting, how did you kind of transfer into the broadcasting, the broadcasting booth after your playing career? Because I guess you had a stint in the USFL, and then but how did your career end, and how did that You
Well,
picked up.
I played 2 years with Washington Federals in the USFL and enjoyed that. But my sophomore year at Texas Tech, I used to be one of those guys who did kind of like reporting for different sports, whether it was tennis or golf or basketball or baseball. And then I learned the art of broadcasting, doing reporting. Started off there, and then when I in the off season here in the New York area, I would go to CNN and watch things and intern and stuff like that. I interned actually with Dan Patrick back then, and that's how I kind of learned it. And then when I started with the Fan, I was the beat reporter for the Giants, so I learned every day how to put packages together. And then I finally became a commentator in the booth. And I really, really enjoyed the heck out of it. I was sideline reporter first, then I went in the booth and became with Bob Papa. And then I got offered a job with another company, and I left for more money. I probably should not have left because it kind of made my career go in a different direction, but it was more money, and that was the reason I took it. And then I had a family after that, so I enjoyed the heck out of it. I left there probably in 2000 something, and then I became a corporate trainer. I've always been a public speaker, so that led into that. I worked for Sports Illustrated as a motivational speaker, and then I led to me being a corporate trainer, and that's what I kind of do now. I go all over the country training people on different subjects.
Well, I tell you, you speak eloquently. I mean, this has been a great interview, Billy. So, I mean, I listened to you
You
on the
tell
radio.
all the guys that. You tell all the guys that. Billy R, Harry, everybody. Yeah, he told you that too.
Billy R is a different breed.
He's a great guy. He's a super guy.
Yeah.
There was a few times when we had him on, we thought he was going to come through the camera. He was getting that animated.
Oh, he's. I just saw him probably, and I see him probably 5 or 6 times a year. We all do Giant appearances, so I just saw him at the last home game with Leonard Marshall and a couple other guys and O.J. Anderson, and we just have a ball. I think the Giants probably have one of the best organizations for taking care of the old people. I mean, they have an alumni for the Giants, which is really incredible, and all of us do different events around that they do, and on the day of the game, they bring players to the suites and they sign autographs and mingle with the people. And I just really like the way the Giants have done things with their alumni. Wellington Mara, the owner of the Giants, said before he died, he said he wanted once a Giant, always a Giant, and they set up an alumni situation, and they really do a good job. They really, really do.
Absolutely. That's good to hear. And then, it's nice, as a fan, to see the ex-players out and about, before games, during games, after games, and, during the season, and even after the season. So the one question I do have for you is, in your time with the Giants, who was your favorite teammate?
Not even a question. Beasley Reese. He played defensive back, and he became a broadcaster also. He was in Philadelphia and Tampa. But the reason we became good friends, we lived by each other. We used to ride to work in the morning and come home. But he played defense, and I was always trying to learn the game from a defensive standpoint, what the defense was trying to do to us. And so because of his knowledge and the safety, regardless of what you think, has to know the entire game. You got to know where everybody plays. You got to know every position that plays. And that's why I kind of picked his brain, because I wanted to know what they were doing in situations, especially when I was catching the ball, because I wanted to know, was the safety coming over or was the linebacker coming over to cover me, and how could I figure it out very quickly. But Beasley Reese, one of my best. Harry Carson and I've been friends forever. So just, it's a great thing to have. It's almost like an alumni thing. And I have the same thing at Texas Tech. Pat Mahomes, he comes down there every year, and we have, the inter-squad game they do in college. At Texas Tech, they do that in front of 70,000 people. Pat Mahomes brings a kid with special needs, and at the end of the game, let him run for a touchdown, and the 70,000 people give this kid a standing ovation. Pat Mahomes is a great dude. I mean, regardless of people are telling me, oh, he wins too much. I'm tired of Kansas City winning. But, you look at him as a person. He's a team first guy. He helps everybody. He's really good. He plays hard. He works hard. And any acclimate that he gets, he totally deserves.
Well, he's giving Brady a run for his money. But with that, we don't want to take any more of your time. one more question to pass along to Jerry, but yeah, thanks, Billy. This has been great. I mean,
Come on, man. Anytime you need me, not even a problem.
and then I know Brian Barth that gets you hooked up with him. He sells. How did you guys get hooked up with Brian? I'm on him on Facebook, but how'd you get hooked up with him?
He does sports memorabilia, and some of those shows he has brought me in for some of the shows. And right now I do a little thing on Wednesday on his little show. We just talk about the Giants. He won't talk about anybody else.
Yeah.
I said, let's talk about the other parts of the NFL. Let's talk about the Super Bowl. He wants to talk about the Giants, and he bleeds blue. I mean, I get over it pretty quickly when anybody loses. I don't hold it in. Very quickly, I do a party in Barbados, or used to do a party in Barbados. So the Eagle fans took over my party in Barbados. So there's 300 of them. And the next day on the beach, the Eagles had lost. And I don't know if you ever know anything about Barbados, but it's one of the most beautiful beaches in the world. I go out on the beach, all of them are in a bad mood. I said, what the heck's wrong with you guys? This is Barbados. Oh, the Eagles lost. And I said, but something's wrong with you people. And that's what I found out over the years, that the Eagle fans are a little bit different.
Yeah. What's your prediction for the Super Bowl? I know you got Texas Tech with Mahomes, but you also got Barkley. So Jerry and I were digesting the whole Barkley thing with should he assign him, everything else. I mean, I don't know. He had a great season, and he's a great dude, but he's wearing the Eagles uniform. That's tough for a giant nation to swallow. So
yeah, but I've always been the person who gives credit when it's due. And I thought Barkley, when he was here, was a good person. He had great character, great integrity, was a team guy. And I thought it was a terrible move for them to get rid of him. I mean, come on, somebody can do that kind of stuff. But he was blessed to go to a team that had one of the best offensive lines in the game. And he really put his implant on the Eagles. And even though I'm not an Eagle fan, I'm a Barkley fan. But I am a Texas Tech fan, so I have to go with Pat Mahomes because of the kind of guy he is and what he does for Texas Tech and what he does for kids. And all I hope for, and just like you guys, I want to be entertained. If you go into the third quarter of this game and the score is in doubt, then I've already won, because I want to be in. I don't want to have to get up and check something else out. And there's been blowouts before, but I just hope it's entertaining so that I can at least feel like I've been at a play or an event that's outstanding.
Sure.
I think we'll see some points, though. I think we'll see a lot of points.
I believe it. Yep. I do. Yep.
But hey, listen. The one thing I'll say is I slightly disagree. If my mother got signed by the Eagles, I'd root against her. So as a Giant fan. So
that's the same way I feel about the Cowboys.
Yeah, them too. Our producer's a Cowboy fan. We don't hold it against them though. So again, Billy, listen, from like Jimmy said, I mean, thanks for joining us. Again, BT Express, there's a reason why you had that nickname. You were the offense. You alone were the offense for a few years. Good memories, especially. I always say this, I'm pushing 50 years old now, and it's always nice to have somebody like you on. It just brings me back to my childhood and, my experience of getting into the Giants and becoming a Giant fan. And like you said, hopefully we have some better days ahead really, really, really soon.
I think we will. I really do, because I like Brian Daboll. A lot of people are wondering why they brought him back, but I think, and you will see that I think he is a quarterback guru. He made a mistake on Danny Jones, and then the Barkley situation was the general manager, but I think they're going to make up for it this year. I don't know who they're going to get, but they have to find a quarterback, because I do believe, and I get jealous because they kind of devalued the running back this past season, which I cannot believe they did, but I believe the running back is back. I really do. With the guy with Derrick Henry in Baltimore and the guy for Green Bay and Saquon Barkley, they're going to start to get paid now. You see, they're going to start to get the money. The receivers are the divos, and they're the ones who are going to probably go down a little bit, because I think that they're the ones. If you think of anybody being overpaid, a guy who catches the ball 2 or 3 times a game, it is not impacting the game as much as a running back.
Well, it's been a passing league for so long, but it's got to come back to.
It is coming back. Look at all the teams. Look at all the teams that are in the playoffs. Every single one of them ran the ball.
Yeah. Well, listen, Billy, I can't thank you enough. Jerry, you have anything else for Billy before we sign off?
No, BT Express, baby. Texas Tech, number 38.
And I don't think Jerry slept last night once I told him that you're coming on the show because the whole car wash story. But
Yeah, Billy, I got to meet you again at the car wash. This time I'm not going to pay for it though.
Hey, listen, you guys, I really enjoyed it. I really do. I do a lot of things, and I really enjoy myself. And you guys made it fun for me. And I wish all of you the best of luck. And hopefully in the future we can do it again.
Absolutely.
No, definitely. Well, definitely. I got your contact information now, so we'll definitely reach out once hopefully once the weather turns warm back to cold again. But I know you're a golfer, so hit him straight, Billy. But this is episode number 35. This episode of Sports Consiglieres was produced by Chop Sports Media, Dave Sturcio, and our special guest this week was Billy Taylor from the Giants. BT Express, go blue, and then good luck. Enjoy the game, everyone. Have a great day.
Have a good day, you guys.
Thanks
Thank
again.
you again.
Thanks,
Thank
Billy.
you again.
It was great. Thank you.